Hey, you guys, welcome to my first episode of my podcast, Well Made. I am in Hawaii and I'm so excited to share this with you guys. I have been wanting to forever jump on a podcast and dive deep into everything that I talk on my other social media platforms. If you follow me on Instagram or TikTok, you know I am obsessed with self-wellness, self-improvement, self-help, and just bettering ourselves to become the best version that we could possibly be. And no other way that I think is possible to do this than to have a podcast and share these intimate, raw moments with you guys that I'm not able to on my other social platforms. Talking about other social platforms, I have spoken a lot about some trials with situations I've gone in my life where they have truly shaped me to who I want to be today. One of them being is that I went through a really hard 10 years of my life trying to seek approval from a group of people who necessarily didn't like me or love me. And I found myself every time being around them changing who I was to try to fit the mold that they wanted me to be so I could be accepted and loved. And doing that, I lost myself in that process. I realized I did not like who I was. I didn't love who I was, and I didn't like who I was becoming. And just like a magnet where you're going to attract a negative group of audience and you're going to attract a positive group of audience, that's the same with everything in your life. And I realized if I want to love myself, love the life I'm living, I really got to dive deep and figure out who I am and just be who I am supposed to be and find myself. And that is why I'm here with this episode today to tell you guys the 5 things that I looked at to change my life, to find myself and to fall in love with myself and love who I am and eliminate everything in my life that was distraction and noise that was preventing me to become the best version I could possibly be. Number 1 is relationships. I had to dive in and look at every single relationship that was in my life. What relationships was I walking on eggshells that I felt walking away just drained? What relationships did I feel uneasy and I felt unsafe and I felt like I couldn't be myself? Those are the types of relationships I realized were cactuses in my life. If I wasn't going to eliminate completely from my life, I realized I need to have a cactus. What I say with a cactus is that if you get too close to a cactus, you're going to get pricked and you're going to get hurt, and you got to keep them far away and realize have that label on those type of people. Like, those are my cactuses and they're far away and I'm not going to get too close. But then it comes to those type of people where you do need to eliminate them from your life. That if your inner circle is not uplifting you, they don't love you for who you are, they're not bringing the best out into you, then you've got to eliminate those people from your life. The second thing I had to look at was food. I had to dive deep into what I was putting into my body, my family's body, and realize me as a person, I believe in God and I believe in Jesus and I believe that they created this earth. And if they did, there's a reason why all this food is here on this earth. They have healing properties. And I realized that food is medicine. Being organic, grass-fed, and good quality food is going to either build me up in life, or I can eat the opposite, which is processed food, and it's going to make me feel tired, lethargic. It's going to make me feel not my best self. I dove deep into what type of food I was feeding myself and making sure I'm having food that is pre and probiotic food and looking at food that is going to fuel myself and make me feel the best. I had to go back to the basic. If it came from the earth, I knew it was going to be a lot better if it came from man. Having the proper vitamins and minerals and eliminating foods from my vocabulary, like bad versus good foods, and start looking at foods as something that is nourishing and has minerals and vitamins rather than looking at foods that are just healthy and going to help me lose weight. The next thing I knew I needed to look at was my work and what I was doing. So a little backstory for you guys is I was a flight attendant for 6 years. I've always prided myself on earning my own income, being independent. When I was 17 years old, I moved out of my house, got into college, paid for everything myself, and even had 3 jobs. Becoming a mom, me and Kaloni spoke. I was going to stay at home and he was going to work. So he had 2 jobs and I was at home being a full-time mom. And for me, that was just not filling my bucket. My mom raised 8 kids, and I believe all 8 kids are amazing. And she did such a good job. And she said something to me that stuck with me for the rest of my life. And she says, Kat, there's nothing that you're going to do in this world that is more important than raising those babies. And while I completely and 100% agree with her, I knew in order to be the best mom, to raise these babies into being the best people they could be, that I needed to have multiple hats and have multiple roles in my life. I knew I needed to have an outlet where I loved my work and I was passionate about something and working towards something, that it wasn't just being a mom 24/7. Because if you think about it, if your husband or if your partner or somebody in your life or you are doing a job 24/7, do you feel you're going to be burnt out? Absolutely. At that moment, I knew I needed to talk to Kayloni, look at the work I was doing, and to work towards something that I was building, not only in my home, but outside of my home, and giving my kids something they can look to and say, okay, if mom can be a mom and have a business and an entrepreneur, then I can build what I want to be too. Looking at your work environment, are you in a job that stresses you out, that you're not passionate about, that you're working at and you just dread going to? I highly encourage you to look at those different types of situations in your life and to get out of it and find something that you are passionate about, because life is so short and it's not meant to work for somebody else that you absolutely hate doing. Next topic is environment. Looking at my environment, what are you living in? How is your environment? Is it stressful? Is it fun? Do you love living where you live? Do you love the house you're in? Some of these things you can't change, but some of them you do have control over. And let me give you an example. When Kayloni and I decided we were going to live part-time in Hawaii, we ended up selling everything we owned. And in that time, we had nothing in our house. We basically had bare minimum essential needs. And I can't tell you how happy I was. I didn't have clutter, all these like shiny, noisy toys everywhere. I didn't have clothes that I didn't need. I just had things that I needed and I loved and I used every day. And I didn't have this mess in my house 24/7 I was picking up. I immediately went from being stressed out and anxious to feeling more calm and peaceful. And these type of things I have control over, and you have control over your environment. I knew is the place we're living in. It was no longer serving us. And I knew living in Hawaii part-time was going to be something that's crazy. Not a lot of people do this. It sounds so insane, especially to my family when I was telling them I was doing it. I knew if I put my mind to it, I worked hard and just figured it out, that I could do it. So looking at your environment, what is causing you stress and what is causing you happiness was a huge key component in figuring out my life. The last thing I want to talk about, but I think is the most important thing in trying to figure myself out, was belief. I was born into organized religion, and my parents did the best they could with the knowledge they had and what they believe is to be true. And I thank them for that. It's given me a great foundation in my life. But over time, I felt so unworthy in this organized religion. I felt like if I wasn't doing X, Y, and Z, if I'm paying my tithing and doing this and doing that, I wasn't worthy. And I was tired of feeling like I was not worthy. I knew that I was worthy simply because I was a good person and I loved God. And I had to remove this third party out of my life and have a direct relationship with God in order to be the best person I could be for myself and for my kids. I was tired of feeling guilt and I was tired of feeling shame, especially with things I knew that were important to me, like health and having matcha or having something that was good for me, but it was told it was bad. Looking at it and really diving deep into it, I had to ask myself, am I doing these things based out of fear because I'm not going to make it to the celestial kingdom, because I'm not going to live with my family forever? Or am I doing these things because I truly do believe them? I was doing it out of fear. And I tell you, if any of my kids or my friends or family came to me and was telling me a situation they have and a hard decision they're making, and they told me they were doing things based out of fear, I would tell them they're doing something with wrong intentions and that they need to change their either perspective or change what they're doing in their life. I knew I wasn't feeling secure or loved. I wasn't feeling uplifted, and I had to make some changes. So over a course of 3 years, me and my husband dove into our identity as that and really asked those hard questions. How do we want to raise our kids? What is the life we want to live? What do we think that God thinks of us? And how is this going to change our life? So making that difficult decision to realize this no longer serves us. that has served us for a purpose and time in our life, and we're grateful for that, but it no longer serves us. And stepping away from it and letting it go has brought so much peace and calmness and joy in our life. And that right there is looking at all these things. I encourage you guys to realize what is serving you and what is not serving you, and looking at everything that you have. Is this bringing me peace and joy and uplifting me and energizing my battery? And if it's not, kindly give it back and let it go with no anger and no strings attached. Life is so hard, but it's so beautiful when you start loving yourself and loving the life that you're building. We don't have to have everything figured out today. In fact, I don't think anyone has it figured out today. But what we can do is starting today is being 1% better. Today, I'm going to make one different food change. Tomorrow, I'm going to change one habit in my life. The next day after that, I'm going to look at one relationship and see if it's serving me. Every day, we're trying to be 1% better. And over time, those days turn into weeks, and those weeks turn into months, and those months turn into years. And then you have transformed your life. You guys, this was so amazing to talk to you and to be able to just dive in a little bit deeper and to just have this intimate conversation with you. If you like this, please let me know. Comment what you want to see from my podcast, and please post and tag me on all social medias, Kat Kamalani. Realize you guys are loved and you're on the right track, and you're doing something amazing with your life just by listening to this podcast and trying to better yourself. I love you guys, and I hope you have a great day.